In today's video, I'm going to try and help you get them 2 million credits as quickly as possible in the latest electric car that has been added to Gran Turismo 7 in a recent update. Now, if you do like these videos, if they help you out, if they manage to improve your lap time, I'm very grateful to anyone who subscribes to the channel, and consider giving it a like. Obviously, if it's helped you out, it's always a massive help to me. Now, we're obviously at Nürburgring sprint layout, as you can see from the replay camera, and you can see there we are in the Hyundai Ioniq 5. Now, we do have a guide for the Monza time trial also on the channel, so if you're struggling with that, feel free to check that out on my 2 million credit playlist. Now, you can see I did briefly manage to get myself up to P1 in the world. I'm pretty sure that will get annihilated by some very quick drivers, but I predict the gold is going to be around 1 minute 38.6, because I felt like there was a 35.9 possible for even if I hooked up an absolute perfect lap. So I'm guessing people will be well into the 35s by the time this ends. So let's get into this lap guide and try and help you out. Remember, we are on sports hard tyres. You cannot change the setup on this car. Everything is default, no brake bias change allowed. However, do make sure you map your overtake button for this car. You can see I'm using it there on the bottom right hand side, and you need to use that throughout the lap. So going into turn 1, we are going to be looking for the change of colour in the tarmac. I'm going to brake before then because these brakes on this car are not great. Now, brake it in a straight line and keep your brake 100% down past the 50 board before we start turning in. You can actually see, use as much of the curb on the left hand side as possible to widen the line, and then as you're coming into the corner, you can see the gradual starting to trail brake. Your right hand tyre wants to clip this curb on the right hand side. It will help with a bit of rotation, and then back on the throttle. Just be cautious you don't put too much throttle down. Do not use the boost straight away. Just wait for the boost until you're in a straight line, and you can see there I don't use it at all in this part of the track. And then we're going to get on the brakes nice and early for this corner, because you want to rotate this car right up to the curb, and you don't want to understeer wide. You want to just almost use the curb as a guidance through the corner. Just hold that line and then put the throttle down. Now you can see I'm going to put a bit of boost in on the right hand side there. Now, I don't personally feel that is 100% necessary for this part of the track, but I'm trying to eke out every bit of time that I can. Now, again, make sure you're super early on the brakes for this corner. You can see I just use the corner as a reference and just look at the distance, because there isn't really a massive braking reference there. And then here, you want to try and turn it in early. I take a tighter line than the Ghost in front of me, because I want to use the curb as a bit of rotation. So you can see left hand tyre on the curb, let it rotate you through the corner. And then again, put that power down without the boost. Do not use the boost at this part of the track. And then as you're going through this right hand corner, you can really take a lot of the curb off, and that's why I'm not using the boost, because it'll understeer you. So a lot of the curb, wait until you feel confident for the boost button, the overtake button, then start using it, and just be cautious it doesn't understeer you wide too early over that curb. Too early and your lap is invalidated. And again, if you do not get that right hand tyre over to the right hand side of that white line, you will invalidate your lap also there. So be careful on the exit of that corner. Now we're going to be using this white line on the left hand side. You could see it as we were approaching the corner. We're using that as our braking reference for this corner before the overhead board. And now we're going to start rotating in. Now, what I recommend for this corner is try not to run deep. Again, you want to get this car slowed down and hug this right hand side as much as possible. And again, I'm being very, very patient with that trail braking very late on, and then throttle 80-90%, and then it gradually go up to 100%, and then I'm going to put the boost on. Now, I might have been a tad early with this overtake button here, because it did feel the understeer kick in slightly. Now we're going to use the 100 board for our reference for this next left-hand corner. We're going to pretty much brake dead on that, you can see, onto the brakes. And again, we're going to start rotating it in. And again, you're not going to go too aggressive with the braking here. It's just up to 100 and then start trail braking down, because it's a bit of a higher speed corner. Now, you're turning in before the 50 board. Left-hand tyre up onto the green Astro will help with a bit of rotation, and then putting that throttle down on the exit there. And again, I briefly put the boost down here, the overtake button, but I don't think it's 100% necessary. Now, imagine a line across the track from the curb. That's going to be your braking point there, and you're going to brake just before that line, imaginary line, I should say. And that's because we want to start rotating it in to this right-hand corner. Now, it's important to come from as wide an angle as possible. You can see the Ghost in front on the white line with his left tyres, because you want the exit speed from this corner. So right up onto the curb now, and you can actually get really aggressive with the overtake button there. You can get pretty much on the apex of the corner onto that overtake button and keep it pressed down all the way on the exit. You've got a bit of green Astro to use there. Just try not to run into the gravel, which will slow you down. Now, as we work our way through here, that curb can actually slow you down slightly, so just be cautious with that curb. And then we're going to brake before this white line. You have to brake so early for this corner. You've got the white line there, and you want to brake quite a distance before that, because you've got to slow this car down, 100% braking all the way pretty much up to the turning in point. And now we're in that turning in point. You can actually see I'm starting to trail brake off as I'm turning in, and you really can be aggressive on the first part of the chicane. You can see left hand tire, you can actually go right over the grass, and as long as your right hand tire does not hit this bollard, you shouldn't get the lap invalidated. Just avoid that bollard. You've got to stay to the left of it, and then instantly on the boost again as we come out of the corner. So make sure you've got your boost button set up with something you can easily get to. It will help you out a lot for this one. Now again, into the final corner, we're going to get very early on the brakes here. Again, I just use the corner as a reference with this car. You want to be super early so that you can try and get this right hand tire as close to the curb on the right hand side as possible. I want to hug that curb throughout this corner. So you can see, using the curb with the right hand tire, hold the line, and then you can start putting the power down without the overtake button. And then when you feel confident, onto that overtake button. Now unfortunately, I run a little bit wide here, and you can see I actually go in the gravel, which probably loses me a little bit of acceleration out of the corner, but I just about managed to keep it on the track to avoid the penalty, and we go over the line for a 1:36.477. Now there was a couple of attempts at least off there that I could go quicker, so I'm pretty sure that someone quick will be 35.7s, 35.8s, maybe something around there, maybe even 6s. But let's have a watch of this lap again with kilometers an hour on and from the chase camera, and you can really see about widening the lines with this car, because you want to try and wait patiently for that throttle, because it's electric. You've got no gears for rotation, so it's all about patience and waiting for that grip to be there. Again, holding the tight line, then putting that boost, the overdrive or whatever it is, the overtake button on this it's supposed to be, but it just gives you, I presume it just gives you a bit more boost on one set of tires. It feels to me like when you hit it, it actually creates more power in the front of the car. That's why I was being a bit more patient with it, because I felt it understeered the car slightly. But again, as we go through this right hand corner, again holding a tighter line as possible, patient before we put that overtake button down, and then into this next left hand corner using that 100 board there to rotate it. And you can see how we're using a lot of the track with this car, because we're trying to widen it in. It is an absolute tank, this car. It must weigh a good few tons or whatever it is, because it really does not want to slow down in the braking, and it will understeer quite a bit if you're a bit too aggressive into them corners. But you can create the car to have a little bit of oversteer as well, so it does have that ability in it as well. You can see here as we go into this corner, you can see the rotation's not too bad there, and again on the exit just being careful, and the rear steps out a little bit, but with that overtake button kind of corrected it, because it's settled it down and got it back in a straight line. And then that final corner, almost perfect here, just a fraction too wide there, maybe lost me just on the half attempt, or yeah, maybe half attempt loss there on the exit. But a pretty solid lap. Hopefully that will help you out. Hopefully it helps you get the gold or the silver. Let me know in the comments if it has helped you out. I always love reading them comments, and I'll see you for more videos in the future. Thanks again for watching, everyone.